The title of this thing was On-Premises Power BI Reporting Services 2019. So I kind of put that in there thinking I was going to get this crowd of people, thinking, oh, right, it's the new 2019 reporting services. But it really isn't. It's what it's been around this whole time. So that's why the lines kind of threw it. And another good joke. I don't know how many times have y'all seen this. Have y'all seen this slide yet today or yesterday? Do y'all know about PBIRS or not? If you don't know about PBIRS, you're going to find out this week, no matter what. But it's a great resource. I've been involved in 24 Hours of PBIRS, local user groups, SQL Saturdays. I've done PBIRS Marathon as a speaker and as a host. I've been the chair of 2 virtual chapters, and I've volunteered around here. I was holding the signs for seats available this morning at the keynote, and I was doing the ambassador thing on one of the other ones, directing people. But Thomas LeBlanc is a real person. He has a family. That is my family. It's my wife, stepdaughter, my son, and my newer one, Kaylin the baby. And I might tear up here saying this, but she has been reaching her hands out like this, and you think, okay, she wants you to pick her up, and instead she grabs your face and she pulls it to her face and hugs you and puts your cheek up next to her. It's the greatest thing. So I'm on FaceTime missing my family. Thank God for technology. And there she is. She goes, ah! And she grabs the camera, my wife's phone, and she puts it up to her face. So my son is a character and a half. I hope he's not half as bad as I was as a kid, but he's heading there. But I'm a Microsoft data platform MVP. I don't think many people care about that, but my newer thing is I just become a product manager with the Azure Inc. company, and it was mainly for the Warescape acquisition, which is a data automation tool for data warehouses, basically, and I'm part of the 3D group. I used to be labeled as a database normalization nut, which meant if you didn't have your database structured as 3rd, 4th, and 5th normal form, you got the wrath of Thomas. What I found out about that was developers don't care about the wrath of Thomas, and they do their own thing. So I went over to the other side, to data warehousing, where I can create my own table, my own indexes, my own foreign keys, and do whatever the hell I wanted to do. And I left those developers behind. I consider myself a retired developer. The younger whippersnappers were just flying by me when .NET came around. But I've done DBase, RBase, Fox Pro, Visual Fox Pro, Visual Basic 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've been through DLL hell and the 16-bit versus 32-bit components for screens, and got into the .NET, even the ASP part. But I retired out that and went to the data part. One of the bigger things today is I've actually volunteered in the PBIRS community. I'm going to be the chair of the Baton Rouge Business Intelligence edition of SQL Saturday, which is coming up March 7th next year. But I've also been involved with the 2 local groups for 10 or 12 years. It's been a long time. We even have an analytics user group, which is open to all technologies, not just in the Microsoft realm. And I've been the past virtual chair of the Data Architect and Excel BI virtual chapters. Those where you can go on lunch, watch an hour presentation, which is similar to this, but it's all online and it's all free. I've also been on the nomination committee, so if you saw all the things about voting today, there's a nomination committee that helps interview and look at the candidates that become part of the board of PBIRS. But what we're going to talk about today is first we're going to look at what the installation is involved in this component. We'll look at the configuration, which is like the reporting services. We're going to build, I'm not going to build Power BI stuff from scratch, but I've got some Power BI reports built in different fashions. We're going to look at each one of them. Then we're going to look at the big important thing, which is the deployment to the reporting services. And last, we'll look at the management of these things, which was similar to the question the lady asked earlier. So installation and configuration. The installation is pretty easy. You just download it from Microsoft. It's a website out there. You type in Power BI report services, and it'll bring you there. It'll say try free or free trial, and that's actually the same version That's the Developers Edition, the trial, the even the version you have where you put in a key into it. So anyone could download this, anyone could use it, but in order to be licensed for it, you have to have SQL Server Enterprise Edition 2016 or higher. You need an SA, which is a service agreement, or enterprise agreement. If you don't know what SA or EA is, you should have something called a Technical Account Manager from Microsoft. It's called a TAM, and you can call that person and they can find out more information. Or if you're a big spender, if you have a Power BI premium tenant, you can use this on premise as well. Not sure why you would mix those two together, but you can. It is a separate installation. If you didn't know this, about 2 versions ago, they extracted the reporting services installation out of the normal SQL Server installation, so it's totally separate now. There's no tie to it. You can install it separately. You can actually have a different version of it running than the actual database engine and analysis services and SSIS. So it's completely stripped out of that. You just download it. Now, for the Power BI report server, what you get, and at first I had this thing where updates are only every 4 to 5 months, but what that update is actually new features. So if you've been following Power BI, once a month they release a new desktop. Much more frequently, they release things in the Power BI service. But for the Power BI report server, it's about 4 or 5 months. So they have one January, May, and then is either August or September. I think it's September was this latest one that they had. But believe it or not, and I just recently realized this, they do bug fixes. So they don't tell you this, but that one you download on that website might be newer this week than it was the one last week. But you don't really see that. There's no notification of it, but they do bug fixes in it when they happen, and they release frequently. Yeah, this DevOps thing, as a past waterfall technique developer, it's thrown me off so bad that they can just release stuff so quick. But it's part of the way things go today. And basically it's very simple until something fails. And then it gets complicated. But if everything goes smoothly, it's fine. And the reason I joke about that is, so I haven't done this presentation or a Power BI report server presentation in quite a long time. It's been about 6, 8 months. And I've got my beautiful Surface Pro 3 that I've been doing all demos and never had any problems. And I've been working on my presentation on this computer, which is a work computer. And I said, okay, let me move it to my computer and get it all going. And I was actually going to demonstrate doing an update. I was going to run the update here and wow you guys. And the whole thing was failing this morning, and that computer is totally screwed up right now. So I actually had to make sure I had everything running on this one to even do this presentation. So it's very simple until it's not. And apparently I put the August 2018 original one on there, didn't get fully uninstalled, and then the January one, and I didn't put any updates since, and it's not working properly. I think I'm going to go to the Microsoft Data Clinic tomorrow and just drop my laptop off and give them the password and see what happens. So the installation, let's just look at a demo. It's real simple. You go to the website, you go download it. This is the first EXE. It's the actual report, or this is the only EXE. It's the report server itself. You right-click it. I always launch it as administrator. Just I guess a habit I always do. And it'll run and it'll look at your existing system and kind of give you an idea of what you can do. I can uninstall it. I can repair the current version, which I'm starting to suspect that means I've already got September 2019 on this machine, and I downloaded a newer copy, and it's recognized that it might be a different version, though it doesn't tell me that. So the repair might be just go ahead and put the new bits on this particular machine. I'm saying machine, but in reality, if you're at your office, you're installing this on a server, right? It's not a local machine. And then the other one it says actually Upgrade Edition, which this is the current edition, which is kind of throwing me off here. So I don't know if I ever clicked that upgrade this edition, because it actually is supposed to be the same one. But it's real simple. If you didn't have it already installed, you would just get one button on there, accept the license agreement, hit install, and it installs the whole thing for you. It runs as a service, just like reporting services. It actually is SQL Server reporting services with the integration of Power BI as being able to render those reports in your portal. So it's the exact same thing. There's really nothing different other than this one has Power BI and your normal one does not. Okay, and there's two separate installations, but one just has something added on to it. So in reality, you can actually install reporting services on your server and Power BI reporting services. Now, I wouldn't do that because when you see the configuration, it's the same configuration. You can have them running together. So just by installing this one, I have them running together, plus I get a more frequent release than this than I do with reporting services. Question? Okay. That's a typical question you get. So that's the installation. Not much to it. I actually installed about a week ago reporting that version on this machine. So it's running a brand new one. So your configuration, you actually have two paths to go by. Number one, it's a new installation. And number two, you're updating an existing SSRS installation. Okay, so if you're doing a new installation, it's just like SSRS. There's really nothing different from it at all. You go through the same installation, the same configuration. The difference, excuse me, with updating an existing one is you're going to use the database that's on that server, your existing reporting services database. You're going to use that one for this installation. So, most important thing you do with all databases, you back it up. And then you back it up again in case, right? And you replicate it somewhere just in case. And then you restore it to a dev machine just in case, right? Y'all do all that. How many DBAs are in here? I mean, yeah, come on. That should be like saying, yeah. But, what I would do is instead of using that existing database, I used to be a DBA, I'm real cautious, except when I'm not, I restore it as a different name, okay? So I might call it PBI report server, okay? And the beautiful thing Microsoft has done with that is almost everything you possibly need is in that database. The only thing that really is not is a couple configuration files. So if you had to do some tweaking with your IIS administrator, they usually tweak it in these 3 or 4 INI files. So that might be the only thing you got to go copy file-wise. And you'll know, you should remember if you do this because you should have it as a backup somewhere. But some people don't. The next thing is you back up the encryption key. So if you didn't know this, when you install reporting services, that database has an encryption inside of it. It has something that encrypts it so people can't just go into it and look at your existing data that's inside that reporting services database. Or really, they can look at it. What they can't do is go back up and restore it somewhere and then bring it online to see what your reports are without that encryption key. So it's real important to back up the database, back up your encryption key. Now, here's a kicker. Either you're going to be a rebel and you're going to uninstall the existing SSRS and trust the system, or you're going to shut the existing one down. Now, I'm talking about upgrading the one from another, not a new installation, not a new instance of reporting services, but I want to upgrade my existing one, right? So what happens if you have an existing reporting services system out there? Do you have users using reports? How do they launch a report? They go to the URL, brings up the portal, it displays their report, and they click on it, right? It might have prompts. So they're used to going to that exact URL location. So if you don't either shut down or uninstall the existing one, when you do this new one, you're not going to be able to use the same URL as your existing one. So you've got a choice. Either you give them a new URL, which they're going to scream and yell, or you shut down the existing one and use this new one. It's kind of like taking a chance, right? I've actually done this at 2 different customers, and it's done successfully. So I'm pretty confident in it. Then you run the configuration after the install. You point to the SSRS DB or the one you restored. You get the key with the password, and then it comes up and runs. So here's just a view of the configuration or the portal view. And then that's a picture of my 2 report server. And then there's the TempDB one, which is really just like a TempDB of your database except for reporting services. So I just happen to name it a little bit different. I think it defaults to report server when you do an installation. So let's look at the configuration. All right, so it's prompted me for the server name along with an instance. You can click the find to find the instances, but in this case, it is only going to find the one reporting Power BI report server. So this configuration manager is a different one that you would have in your normal reporting services. But once I connect, I have all the same features as I had, just like reporting services. I can stop and start the service. I could change the service account. One thing I found here, which I didn't know about, was that one of them was set up like as either network service or a virtual service, and we wanted a service account to run it. And it kept prompting me for the encryption file and a password. And I'm like, it's not supposed to be doing that. And I canceled it all out and got it set up anyway, and nothing worked. Well, if you change the service account here, you've got to have the encryption key and the password for it to redo everything. So it's based, I'm guessing the encryption method is based on whatever the service account is. So be cautious of that. You have your normal web service. So this is like doing Windows Explorer into the deployed reports. Here's where you have the database. So if I was setting this up new, I would say change databases. Instead of creating a new, I would say choose an existing, and then I'd go pick, after I connected to my service, I'd go pick that particular reporting services database. And then after I do that, I would have to use the encryption key, restore it with the password. I'm not going to do that now. I don't want to screw up this. Here's the web portal. So once it creates that web portal address, it'll give me the option to just go to that particular link, and here is my Power BI report server. And I mean, the really difference is you see Power BI report server instead of SQL Server report server. You can actually customize all that now. They've done a nice job of being able to make it look more modern. But if you notice here, you'll see paginated report here, and then you see Power BI reports there. So now these two are mingled together. If I'd have had my old laptop, you'd also saw the KPIs and the mobile reports that were available like in SQL Server 2014, because I've been converting it over the years, and it still has all those displayed on this particular portal. So it still supports all the previous things that you used before. You're not losing anything by putting this on here in place of reporting services. And then really lastly, there's a bunch of other options here, but this is the important one, the encryption key. So here's where you can back up, restore, or change the encryption key. So, you back it up, it's going to prompt you for a location and file name plus a password, and then when you have to restore it, you click there and pick the encryption key and then enter your password. Say that again? The SSL certificate for HTTPS, any pitfalls in setting that up? So he's asking if there's any pitfalls for the certificates. I don't have any experience with that, so I really don't know the answer. I'm sorry, but I'm sure it's just like what it was in reporting services. Say that again? It's really straightforward. So this guy has a good answer. So he's asking what the difference is between normal reporting services and Power BI report service. They're exactly the same, except this one allows you to publish Power BI reports. That's it. Given that, why would anybody ever use SSRS? So why would anyone use SSRS anymore? You don't. You don't have to. You migrate it straight to this. They've made it easy to do it. What does not work?
Drill downs within a Power BI report or report X, report Y.
All right, so okay, so there's two different things. He's talking about if I have reporting services server and I've been deploying RDL files, if I put Power BI report server, can I still use the same RDLs in this one? And the answer is yes. What you're talking about is Power BI desktops and its abilities is different between the service and on-premise reporting services. So that drill down is available in the service is not available in on-premise. So we're going to get to that, okay? I'm going to show you why that's the case as well. But you got everything else. You can connect. Amazingly enough, you can still connect your reporting services to the Power BI service, which is in the cloud, and you can still go in this desktop. You can still say deploy to the service. It's kind of confusing, but it's what it is. How often do you need to back up the encryption key? You should only have to back it up once and then use it in your upgrades. And then always make sure you maybe do another backup and maybe another backup of the encryption with the key, with a password. Yeah, it's real flaky that you got to keep this track. I mean, something like the SSRS DB, the catalog of SSRS, it has a password on it. You got to remember to keep track of all those things. So he's asking, is there additional license fees for Power BI report server if I already have 2019 Enterprise? No. No. Now, what I don't know details about is if you put it on another server. That's when you really have to contact the person you purchased SQL Server from and ask them, can I put this on another server other than where the database engine is? And that might cost you additional licensing. So building a Power BI report. So that's the key here, and the lady's question or comment about it is, what am I creating? I call it a report. I think the frequent thing you hear today is PBIRS file. But really, you're building what I consider a report with a bunch of tabs, even though it interacts like a dashboard or maybe a scorecard to some extent. But it's a real confusing thing to mix the terms, especially when terminology changes so quickly. But in order to create a Power BI report to deploy to the Power BI report server, you're going to have to go to the portal, you'll have to go to the downloads, and you got to download the Power BI desktop. You can search online and find it through Microsoft Downloads, but this is the easiest way to find the current version. And we'll look at it, and I'll go to the portal. It's not the one you could download and install from the Windows Store. So you can't use that, and you'll see why in a second. But they can coexist. So I can have the desktop that's updated monthly along with the one for Power BI report server. I got them both on my same laptop computer. Confusing, right? So you get some warnings if you got the wrong versions, a little. Sometimes I've heard a couple people mention this. They're like, I opened this Power BI report with this, and it comes up saying, some queries will not work or function, or some error messages come out. We don't always read the whole error message, and it's like a paragraph. So you just click OK and instead of cancel, and then the report comes up and everything's working fine. So when I say a little, it's sometimes you see the error message correct a little, But definitely if you open up like one saved in the September 19 Power BI report server desktop and you try to open it up with the current one released in October, it's going to tell you it's of an older version and it's going to convert it. And you just don't want to do that because now you can't ever save it back to the report server. It's interesting what it actually puts in there we'll look at it. We'll look at it in demo. But what you'll do notice is they have two different color icons. Okay? What's that? Finally, yes, so finally. Yeah, it's much better than August of 2018, I can tell you that. They've improved upon it much. I've been doing SQL Server stuff for a long time, and man, I can get really vocal about bad things that Microsoft does, but you just got to wait a little while, and it improves. The problem is you got to kind of stomach it for a little while until you get the cleaned up version of stuff. But they do a great job of keeping things up and improving things. This stuff with this adaptive query processing now, where it can go through the two different types of execution plans, that's just phenomenal. But when you do launch it, you'll get up in the title bar, it'll say the version of it. It'll put in parentheses, September 2019. So when you're running it, you get a little indication of what version you're running. So let's go ahead and go to the portal itself. And look at where I download that. So there's a little download button here, and you can go to the Microsoft BI desktop. You notice a couple other downloads? Power BI mobile, so they've integrated some mobile stuff now, so you can display the mobile version here. You'd have to open up your firewall to get to it in order to look at it on mobile, unless I guess your mobile connects. They don't have Windows phones no more, so I'm not sure how that would actually interact. But they do have the mobile report publisher still and the report builder. So you can still download those things and run inside of here. Another key, I saw this on a, on a blog. So what people were complaining about here was people were on their desktop running the portal and they kept trying to download things. And in the IT realm, they like to lock things down, So you can actually disable that. You can go into SQL Server Management Studio and you can connect to the reporting services service. Now what's changed is you have to have the HTTP path, the URL, instead of the server name / instance name. But you can go to that, connect, right-click, go to Properties, and there's a list. And one of them says Disable the Download. So you remember that configuration I was talking about, that INI file? There actually are INI files out there. You actually can put in there to disable the download. So it's part of the properties of it. So that's the desktop. Now, let's just go open a report. Trying to think of which one I want to show. Let's just do something simple first. All right, so I've deployed this report. It's a Power BI report. You'll notice it has the tabs on the bottom down here. You also still have the filters, which you don't see any here because we don't have any page or report level. But if you go on to a particular visualization, you'll see the filters being displayed. And you get a lot of fluff up here. One of them is refresh, so I want to refresh the execution of it. One of them is explore, like seeing the data or being on a particular visualization that has a hierarchy, so you can drill down and drill up. It's different from what drill through this lady was talking about earlier. I'm not sure if any of these are on a hierarchy. Let me see. No. But you can actually drill up and down if you have a hierarchy on there, or you can see records. Amazingly enough, on these visualizations in my report, there's a little focus mode, which will drill further into that visualization, which is kind of cool. It still has the interaction, just like the other ones do. We still have the being able to filter other ones between it or turn it on and off. But of course, the one that every report person, not every, I'm going to step back. Those people that still like to use Excel to look at the data, you still got an export data function. It'll export it as a CSV file, which I can get right here. I just download it and put it in my download folder so I can see that. But just as well as once I go to here and say show data, it'll actually drill into the visualization and then show the data in a table below it. So that's pretty cool that you're able to see those things. There's a lot of little things like that in Power BI that the only way you really find out about it, well, first, if you stumble upon it, but one is you just got to constantly read all their blogs about the new features added in the latest version. So there's a lot of blogs out there, and you just got to find that stuff out. Question? rest. So his question was, can you talk about the difference between import and direct query? And that's the meat of this whole presentation in just a little while. So we're going to talk about it, and I'm going to take a chance. I haven't even tested a demo of changing data and see what happens, but we're going to do it. I'm going to try, and either I'm going to fail or succeed. And when I fail, then we can all leave. But if you notice, it's kind of busy, right? You got a bunch of stuff in here. If I go up to the URL and I add $rs semicolon embed equals true, guess what happens? Look at that. So it got rid of all that header stuff and all that stuff to drill in and out just by putting that in there. And of course it's in there because they originally developed this so you would you would display your Power BI reports in reporting services in your favorite document sharing program called SharePoint. Got one laugh. So you can take this URL and plug it into another application. Okay, so if you're hosting reporting services, you can put this URL in SharePoint. Still use that, and then it could actually display this as one of those widgets inside of SharePoint or whatever application that you're developing inside of. So that's pretty neat, right? And there's a bunch of other parameters you can pass. I just thought that was one of the neatest ones available. All right, so let's go back to the slides and talk about the report itself. So I like to say it's not a dashboard, so don't treat it like a dashboard inside of the service. There's no such thing as what's called a workspace like you have in the Power BI services. It's just not available. You've got the same data options, import or direct connect. So import pulls the data into the PBIX file, whereas direct connect keeps the connections open to the tables or files or whatever source you bring in, and then you got to do some sort of refresh on it. So my answer to all that as a dimensional modeling, crazy person is use analysis services. Because the same modeling you're building in a Power BI report can be built in analysis services. And then you could do the direct connect to one database. The refresh happens once a night or however frequently you import data, and every single Power BI report is going to the same source. The reason I say that is because in the service itself, you can publish a Power BI report. Excuse me. You can publish that, and they've opened up the XMLA to that so you could connect another Power BI desktop to the same deployed database, okay? But that's not available with reporting services. So in the Power BI reporting services, my opinion is you should look at analysis services to manage the modeling that's being done. And this comes from someone that does Kimball design, which is fact and dimension tables, and I've been embedded in that for about 10 years. So my solution always is single source of data, put in an analysis service. The other benefit is it's easy to create roles in there to lock down the security, what people can see and not see, and analysis services even has the ability to lock down the objects. So table versus column, you can actually lock that down in analysis services. And I don't think that's available in Power BI right now. And I'm not even sure if they're going to bring that inside of there. So remember, you can do import or direct connect. Is this my demo? Yeah, so demo to build a report. So here we go. What this fellow was asking over here was, I've got a Power BI report with direct connect. Okay, and just so y'all know that is true, because you can't really switch inside of here from direct connect to import. If you look over here on the far left, that's do I have something like magnify? Do I need to zoom in on there? Or y'all can see everything? Or don't answer the question. Over here in the upper left, you'll see the visualization part, but then it goes straight to relationships. You don't see the tables. So when you do a direct connect, you're not able to edit that particular part of it. It doesn't mean you can't edit it at all. Now, I don't even know how to get out of that, right? But you're still able to edit the queries that it did use, and because you can still use element power query to modify the structure you put in. And you really don't see it, but when you go to the data source, you see that I'm connected to a particular database. So that's my direct connect, okay? So I have a Power BI direct connect. This one, I'm looking for my next one. Yeah. This one imported the data. Okay, so I have a direct connect one, import. They almost look alike, right? Except for some reason the theme was changed. We're doing one versus the other, and I'm not sure how that happened. You see, I'm talking about the colors. So if you don't know, you can go up here to switch themes, and there's a bunch of new themes that you can use. You can actually create your own and import it inside of here, which is really cool. And I think there's even a website that helps you design them. Because it's a big JSON file and you got to figure out what to put inside of it. But you notice it's almost the exact same report. I got a pie chart, my favorite filter. Whose favorite filter is a pie chart? Nobody's? God.
Chiclets.
What was that?
Chiclet slicers are my friend.
Chiclets?
Yeah.
What is chiclets? Never mind. I'll talk to you later. I'm trying to be as simplistic as possible with the things. I shouldn't have said that about the pie charts. I'm sorry. But there is so much you can do inside of Power BI. Like, for instance, the one thing I didn't show here. Thank God for Control Z, right? The other one was this view area. So you can fit it to width, fit it to page, actual size, change the contrast of the colors. And there's these two options here, bookmarks and selection pane. You're like, what is that? I mean, you can go do a half a day session or one of these sessions just on bookmarks. So you can do your filtering, save it as a bookmark, and then give this to a user so they can list the bookmarks and just click on them and see different views of the existing report, which is so cool. You know, the selection is you can put filters on here that filter between pages or not between pages, and it'll show you that particular selection criteria as well as the filter. So there's a mountain of things that you're able to do inside of here, and I wish I had time to show all that. But we got the direct connect, we got the import, and then lastly, we have, did I skip it? Yeah, SSAS. And in this case, all you have is the visualization part. I'm connected directly to an analysis services database and pretty much have the exact same modeling that I have in Power BI, I have it in analysis services. Excuse me. There's some halls right up here. Someone must have left them for me. All right, so I've got 3 different methods now of publishing on-premise. I can import the data, I can direct connect, and I can direct connect to an analysis services database. You could import from analysis services database. Never heard of anyone doing that. If you have done it, come tell me why you do that later on, and it'll be interesting to see that. So the reason I said all that, I just lost my train of thought on it. Okay. So let me go to the PBIX files. You notice the size of them? Here's the one I did the import, about a meg and a half, and then here's the one I did the direct connect, 43K. So it's imported the data from the database into the Power BI, PBIX file. Same thing with the Power BI service. It's the exact same thing, just the refresh methods are just a little bit different here. So I'm going to go to the deploy part, and then we'll try to make a change in the data and see the different effects, okay? So that's building a report, build it all 3 different ways, and now you want to deploy it to the PBI report server. So under the Save As, you have an option here that says Power BI report server. That's how you can tell the difference. One of the other ways you can tell the difference is are you using the one for the service versus reporting services, is the one for the service does not have the option to save as Power BI report server. You need that web URL for the reports, just like SSRS needs it, or you can actually upload from the website itself. So if you have a locked down IT department where someone could develop something but they can't necessarily publish it to reporting services, then you could give the file to someone, use your favorite source control, TFS. Who here use TFS? Oh, yeah. So you don't use the online version, you use actually the physical one. I like TFS, man. I've used it for years. But you can, so they could save it somewhere, and then the administrator can then upload it without actually having to open up Power BI. So the administrator doesn't need Power BI. They just need the file to upload it to the website. Is that it? All right, so let's deploy. So I'll go to the analysis services first, go to File, Save As, and lucky enough it saves the last couple of versions you tried, so I already have the URL inside of there. I click OK, it's going to ask me where I want to put it. I already have one existing here, so I'm just going to go to this test folder, and I'm just going to click OK, and now it's actually deploying it, just like if you were to deploy from Report Builder or Visual Studio with a report or an RDL file. You're doing the exact same thing here. Once it's deployed, it's got this cute little thing that says, "Take me there." I clicked it, but we're waiting. What's that? I thought I clicked it. Not sure what it's doing. Oh, come on. See if it's trapped somewhere behind something. Let's see what it says. So if I go back up, save as. Yeah, it says it's there. I'm not sure why it didn't take me there. What's that? It's virtual, right? All right. It doesn't like that, does it? I wonder if it's because another one's already open. There he goes. All right. So it's taking me there. I go, when I publish it, now I have a link to go to the particular website. So that's the analysis services one. We can do the same thing with the import and the same thing with the direct connect, but I've already deployed those there. So if I go back to that website and I go to home, you even have a way to favorite this, like on each little icon, I can say add to favorite. And so when I come into here to browse, I can go to my favorites, and then I can see just those particular deployments that I want to see on a daily basis. So just like you can do a favorites inside of your web browser, an end user can save favorites of certain reports, and then those just appear right on their desktop.
Hey, Thomas?
Yeah.
Is there a automation option for deploying these reports?
So he said, is there an automation way to deploy them? I don't know the answer to that question, but I suspect that there's some PowerShell script to do it, or someone's writing one. I don't know the answer to the reporting services. I know the service has that. I just don't know if reporting services does. It's a good question, though. So we'll do that now. So you got a direct connect to analysis services, and you have a direct connect to the tables. So if I go to either one of those, if the data is refreshed in the database, then it automatically gives me that data. Now, if I'm in it like this, and the database is in refresh, I still have to hit the refresh button in order to see that, okay? So it's not like it pushes the update to me. I still have to hit the refresh button, or the next morning when I come in and I go to that particular thing. Nothing's cached is what I'm trying to say inside of here. Like a reporting services, you can actually do some caching behind it. This one does not do any of that stuff. Now, the key, though, is the one you use to import. So the import is really the most popular way to bring data into reporting services. So if I go to the import one, actually what I want to do is I want to go to the manage part. So I click on the ellipse next to my icon. I go to manage. And I get some options here. You notice row level security is disabled. There's a data source. There's a scheduled refresh. So I go to schedule refresh. I've got an imported Power BI report. And if you notice, it says stored credentials for report are missing. Please go to data sources page for this report. Set your credentials for each data source to enable scheduled data refresh. So the only way I can do an import to reporting services is if I go to the data sources and change it from Windows authentication to basic and put in a name and password. Now, the reason I say basic authentication is because I'm never going to tell you to put Windows authentication and put someone's Windows login with their password in there. And why would I not tell you to do that? Is that lady right back there? It expires, right? So I would have to come in here every time it expired and re-enter a new password inside of here. So go ahead.
We set up a service account just for this purpose.
Okay, so they set up a service account just for that purpose. So some people set up service accounts, they don't make the password reset, and they're able to do it. Now, there's some drawbacks to all that. Namely, I'm putting a name and password that has certain rights to that data. So ABC user and DEF user now can access the same data because the name and password is hard-coded. So whatever rights that name and password has, anyone can see that data. That's not too secure, right? So what did I say the suggestion was for deploying these from a data source? Analysis services. Analysis services is based on Windows authentication from your NT, AD, name and password, and you have to put that within analysis services. So you have to lock it down at the analysis services level on who can see what. Analysis services does not have a SQL Server login password. That's why I say that. Because, I mean, when you look at the full stack of what you're doing, you got to secure it somehow. That still might be okay for certain people. Here's the thing. You know, I can do this, test it. What did I do? That's basic. I put the wrong password in. Yeah, okay, I probably put it. There's a second level of security. We'll talk about that in the next part, okay? So that's my import. I've got 25 minutes, so I'm gonna finish it, and then we're gonna edit the data and see what happens. I'm interested to see what happens as well. I've demoed it before, though, and it worked just fine, but we're gonna see that. So let's go back to the slides. Any other questions on that? Does everybody follow this? Yeah, it's confusing. Is there a way to have a shared data source? No. Other than using analysis services. Because you're sharing a... Yes, you do. Just like reporting services, except you can have a shared data source in there. I think they're trying to get you away from that, though. Because even in that data source, well, you could put Windows authentication in there, right? Yeah. So they don't have that inside of here, though. That's why I keep pushing analysis services, because that's the best way to lock it down.
So the answer that I got earlier that we haven't had a chance to test yet on the service account was using a managed service account in there when the password automatically updates and says the data source. The other potential is there are some PowerShell scripts that connect to reporting services to be able to update your data sources through a list that it pulls into it to automatically update all of them at the same time.
So this gentleman has talked to some more high-level Microsoft people and determined there's two methods to get that done through a single account, AD account, and there's a way to use scripting to update the Power BI report deploy to reporting services? Okay, so he's got an answer, but he hasn't tested it. There was one back here first. Speak up, man.
When you're upgraded to Power BI reporting services, does it maintain the folder security?
I can't hear you.
Does it maintain the folder security?
Does it maintain folder security? We haven't gotten to that yet. Yeah.
So I just want to clarify what you asked that. You told me that Power BI report service, we don't have the shell dashboard. But for the SSRS, we have shell dashboard. Correct?
So he's saying, I just told him that Power BI does not have shared data sources. And that is correct. It does not. Is it coming? I do not know. But as far as I know, the answer is no. Correct. You can still use that. You haven't lost anything reporting services with this. It's the exact same thing. All right, one more question, then we'll try to keep going.
My head is spinning a little. I just want to make sure I'm on. So there are two Power BI desktop applications. One can be used to deploy to Power BI report services. The other one can be used to deploy to Power BI Cloud, but not vice versa.
Correct.
Power BI report services contains Power BI reports, which cannot be run on an SSRS report instance. And SSRS reports can be run on SSRS or in Power BI report server, but not in Power BI Cloud.
Correct. This option is mainly for those companies that still are not going to go to the cloud. Okay? And there's a lot of them. I was at 2 of them in my previous 2 jobs, one as a consultant and one as an employee of a bank. And they're just not going to cloud. Let me keep going and then we'll
Another question.
uh, government, right.
Government cloud, it's not.
Yeah. You also got to think in today's this cloud first development stuff, you're going to get new stuff there first, and then they're going to try to integrate it back into on-premise stuff. I don't mind that because the people in Azure and the cloud are testing the software I'm eventually going to use on-premise. You get that? Without me saying much more? The beta's in the cloud and the alpha, and you get tested stuff. Millions of people are testing it live, and they don't even know it. And they push out updates all the time. I talked to I was at a VS Live, and I was joking about the TFS. I was hoping some people would say, what was it, Visual Studio Team Server? Is that what it was called? The first cloud. Now it's called Azure DevOps. And that's the TFS in the cloud. I mean, they were talking about releasing multiple times a day fixes while people were running in production. I was like, how do you do that? It just baffles me, but they're doing it. All right, so we deployed to there. We looked at building a report. There's the option to upload, so I didn't show you that. But if you go to right up here, upload, you're just able to pick the PBIX file, and it just uploads it to the portal. So we talked about it, but I didn't show that. So managing security and refreshes. So the scheduler, you schedule refreshes just like you would do in reporting services subscriptions. It's the same exact flow as reporting services have. The service account that's running your agent jobs, so if you don't know, when you schedule a subscription or a refresh in reporting services, it's running as a job in SQL Server agent. And so whatever that agent account is the one that's going to have access to do that particular refresh unless you've embedded it inside of there with that SQL. So the Windows authentication is on the job level at that point. There's some proxies you can do in SQL Server to get around that in a fashion, but it's really more of an advanced type thing. But if you use analysis services on premises, you don't have to do the refresh. So I'm going to keep pushing that. And of course, my voice against Direct Connect is it's going to get slow. All right, so if you don't import it and you do a direct connect, every time you click a Pi piece, it's running another query on the machine. Every filter, every tab you go to, it's running another set of SQL statements constantly. And what DBAs, do y'all like that? Did they put no lock in there with no lock? That's a good joke. DBAs, y'all should be screaming at me. You can't use no lock. You got to use what? With read uncommitted. So if you do direct connect and they haven't put all that stuff in there, you're going to see a lot of stuff going on your server. But the report itself is deployed. The Power BI is deployed just like a report. So it's in a folder just like a reporting services or a RDL report. So you can set up the security on the folder level or the object level. Same exact thing you could do with reporting services. So if you don't want to do the security within the Power BI data, then you could still implement security at the portal level, just like reporting services. So her example of using a service account could be okay because you still got the browser, content manager, my reports, publisher, and even the report builder inside of that folder. So you're looking at, do I want to manage the security on the report portal or do I want to manage it in the data? So scratch that I'm saying you have to use analysis services. You don't. You can still manage it inside of here. Import still needs to refresh with the SQL, I say the SQL login, but you can use a Windows login service account if you wanted to. The direct connect could use either or. Analysis services has something called roles. It's all Windows authentication, and they even have object security level. Row level security, of course, can be implemented in SQL Server based on Windows accounts or SQL accounts, or you can even customize it by having a join to a particular table looking at the person who's logged in, which is really complicated, and you can read not plenty of blogs, but some blogs about that. So let's go and look at that. And got 15 minutes, good. So if I go to Manage Folder, I can see that my this folder level, it might be better to go to the test one because it's probably not anything set up there yet. So you'll see where I'm going. I could either go to Manage Folders, or if I'm at the home level, I can click on the ellipse and go to Manage. So here I have security, and you'll notice in the beginning, it kind of does a hierarchy from the lowest level up. So as you're creating folders, it's inheriting each level above it. So if I wanted to change that, I would have to go to Custom Security. It changes it from the hierarchy level. Then I got to go grab a particular login, and then I give it either Browser, Content Manager, or Publisher. Okay, so on that folder level, I can manage the security there, and I could use AD accounts. I don't have a good example of this because I just set up this machine. I think it's like Thomas-L. I think that's me. Let's see if it works. No, it's got. I don't know my names of logins on this particular machine, but that's what I need to do. I got to put it in domain/username or a group. So you have a finance group, you have a accounting group, you've got a risk group. You can set up an AD group. Then it's all managed at the AD level, and then you just use that particular role, not role, but that particular AD group inside of here. So you can manage it right here. All right, the other thing, yeah, that's the last one. All right, so the other thing was looking at the refresh. So we're going to go to that import guy, go to the ellipse, go to manage. We changed our data security, so now we have a name and password, and that enables my schedule refresh. If I click here, new schedule refresh plan, and I'm going to say small DW import, I'm creating a refresh, and I give it a schedule. I can edit the schedule, say it's daily. What time is it now? Well, my computer says 7. So I could do 7:50 p.m. I'm going to start it here. I can even stop at a certain time. Now, let me do this real quick just so y'all can see it. If y'all haven't seen this before, I just want to show you where this ends up. So If you go into Management Studio, where of course the latest version seems to take forever to log in, but not today during the demo, but Take Me There did. If I go to the Job Activity Monitor, I've already set one up earlier just to test this. You can tell it's scheduled. The next run is 2 a.m. I probably ran it myself just to test it. But you notice there's one already set up in there. So if I come back to this Manage, I created my next one, I click Apply, and I say Schedule, Create Schedule Refresh Plan. Sometime today, maybe tomorrow, it should have another one in there. There we go. You see it's scheduled for 7:50 p.m. Okay, so now I got a schedule refresh to run on that imported one. Think about this too. If you had a bunch of people doing import, within about a week, you're going to have 10 of them in there. You have to schedule 10 refreshes. I did that. I did it in a development environment to help this group because they were going to help me build analysis services. And then one morning at 7 a.m., there was like 20 queries running on our system when all the imports didn't finish, and I flipped out. I really had a mental breakdown, and I had to apologize to a lot of people. But you can see how it can snowball. Because what do people do? They like to write their own SQL and put it in the import, and then just import the data. Well, I've got my own where clause I need to use, or my own case statement for a particular column. Well, you can use filters in Power BI and do the exact same thing. There's no migration from SSRS to Power BI. Yes, you have to rewrite everything. Yeah, you're welcome. All right, let's see if this works real quick, okay? I'm curious, So hold on, let me see if this actually works. So let's go to what's that? Oh, okay, no, that was loud, huh? Let me make sure what data source this is. So small DW. So I'm gonna go to my small DW. This is just a scaled down VentureWorks database, and it's internet sales. I'm just going to edit some rows. Don't ever do this. So I'm going to change the sales amount to, that's a big enough number, right? So I just changed the sales amount, but it said that's in 2005. Wait a second. That data is it 2005? Yeah, there is 2005 data. Okay, yeah, 200,000. 100,000. All right, so I'm going to go to that particular report, and I'm still seeing the same stuff, right? I'm still, it's almost just like the small DW here, 3.26, right? So I'm going to go out to that activity monitor, I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to start this job. And that should be my refresh. Now I'm going to go back to the portal, and I should hit here, and that 2005 should jump up. It did. You saw that? Yeah. So that's how, I got 10 minutes? Okay. I thought I had less than that. Okay. So that's the import with a refresh. Okay? Now I didn't set that up for the Direct Connect, right? So I'm going to click on the Direct Connect. It shows that up, right? So watch this. If I go back here, let's do a couple more. I got a backup of this database, don't worry. Now let me just do a refresh here. Saw it jump? So that's Direct Connect. Okay, and all I got to do is do the refresh there. But it's running a query every time I click on something. So if I profile this, I see SQL being executed on my database constantly, whereas the import one, it's weird. When I click on the home, it kind of takes a second and everything refreshes. If I go to the import one, I'm not going to see the same thing. So this number, 3.5, 3.8. Okay? So this one, even, no matter how much I refresh here, it'll never come up until I run that refresh. Now, my analysis services, all I've got to do is schedule it once a night after all my imports finish, and it runs that refresh on the analysis service database once, and then all of my Power BI reports the next morning have all that in there. It is not imported, and it's all in one database, okay? And the DAX and some MDX is actually faster with that analysis services database than it would be with those queries, okay? Question? Yeah, so he's saying they have a very large database. Am I suggesting using tabular model? Part A. Oh, so you want to go next after this. Yeah, so watch this. So this particular, here's analysis services. Here's that other one I deployed. So every one of these tabs, customer, date, product, internet sales, all my measures, if I go off to that Power BI one, it doesn't matter. Well, I'd rather see the imported one. If I go over here to my relationships, I've got the same thing. I'm building inside of Power BI an analysis services database. Yes. So what I hear the problem is you can't do it fast enough. You can't do it fast enough. Yeah. So think about this. If I build a model in Power BI and I deploy that one and someone wants a change, if I've given this to other people and they've done their own versions, they got to go update every single one of them. If I do direct connect or if I do import. But if I do analysis services, I make the change there once. They pull up each Power BI one, do a refresh on the edit queries, and they've got the new stuff in there. And they don't have to build no more modeling. The modeling's done once. It's a different way of thinking. It took me it probably took me 4 years of multidimensional cubes to understand the benefits of it. It took a while, but it is so much beneficial. So Microsoft has created Power BI Desktop to make it simple for people to do visualizations. What they didn't initially tell you is the data modeling is something that's more important than being able to push something out real quick. Now, if someone's just giving you a file, Excel spreadsheet, or just some flat data, go ahead and just do that. But if you're connecting tables with relationships, you've got to model it somewhere. You had a question? No, you can't do report snapshots in Power BI like you can reporting services. No.
I have a question. So if you're running Power BI October 2018, you want to get to the latest version, do you recommend hitting all those versions in between to get there, or can you just jump right to the 2019 to do the upgrade?
All right, so you're asking how frequently should I update my reporting services? It's only updated about every 4 to 5 months. Okay, so you're not updating it every month. You would update it every 4 to 5 months. My suggestion is after that month is released, September 2019, I would wait till sometime in October to put it on my dev machine, let it run for a couple weeks, and then deploy it to my production server.
I guess my real question is, can you skip over versions without a problem?
Now, so his real question is, can you skip over versions? I did that on my laptop, and my laptop's not working right now. So I would say no. But you should be able to. So look, so what's the solution to that? First thing I thought this morning, back up the database, back up the encryption key, uninstall everything. Because then I could just reinstall it, connect to the database, and everything should come up, right? I can't uninstall it because the uninstall program wants the original MSI file for that version, which I've already cleaned out of my downloads folder. So that's why I want to go to the clinic and say, hey, what do you do in this situation? Because there's probably a solution to it. I just didn't have the time at, I was up at about 5:30 because I'm on Central Time Zone. And I just wanted to, I'm trying to figure out what to do before I go eat breakfast. So yeah, I think there's a solution to it. I'm not scared that crashed my computer or didn't let me uninstall it. I know there's a solution now. I could probably go find it. Probably with a couple searches, I could find the answer.
So if you have reports running against a tabular model, it seems like you wouldn't really care if you were importing the data or doing direct connect, because if you're firing hundreds of SQL queries against the tabular model, who cares? You're not bringing your database down.
All right, so he's saying if you're connected to a tabular model, even if you do direct connect, it's still running queries against tabular, which is correct. So this is, how do I put this? I don't consider myself smart, but I've learned a lot. And understanding the tabular, the structure, and the speed of it, because it's in memory, is easier for me to understand than being a DBA and using in-memory technology to pull a table in, to trace it, to see what the queries are going to be, and then optimize the index, the hash joins, and whatever else I need. Tabular is the easier solution for me, because I'm not smart. If I was smart and had time, I could set up a database to do the exact same thing with aggregations, Windows functions, and everything. It's just more time-consuming than modeling it in tabular. And that's when cubes came out, and they were so confusing, it wasn't adopted a lot. And then they came out with tabular because it was Xvelocity, which was an acquired company that had column store compression in memory that they put in Excel, in Power Pivot, and then they ported it to analysis services. So it had a train ride to get into tabular model. The same engine today is in Power BI service, and they're promoting you to do the modeling in Power BI instead of Azure analysis services. Correct. This is what you really didn't see there. Am I out of time? Yeah. Here's the roles. I can set up a role here, U.S. sales, where I say sales territory is just equal country. Country equals United States. So now I could go to the members here and add members to this 80 accounts to this role and watch. I can actually go to Excel. I can test this in tabular. And I can say use role, U.S. sales. And if I were to go query the sales region or anything else with a relationship to sales territory, fact tables, it will filter that out for me. And only people can see the U.S. sales. So I go in here and put internet sales, go to my sales territory, and go put country. Oh. And it only shows me North America, U.S. You can test that actually by going to home or data, and you can go to the properties of your connection, and you'll see in here roles, U.S. sales, right there. So guess what I can do if I'm a real smart Excel user? So, but that's power, you know. It's another feature of analysis services is great. All right, it's 6 o'clock here, so if y'all want to leave, go ahead and leave. Wait, before y'all leave.
Evals.
You got it, babe. Go fill out your evals, not because I want to see how much y'all really like me or how much y'all really didn't like me, but the fact that you can win prizes. And I'm going to tell you, the last summit I came to, I got a $50 gift card for filling out the session evaluation. So do it for the money, not for my information, but I really would like to see it. And thank you very much.